you think it was a good style the good approach to use? Call the members of parliament to State House. Some of them have just been basically sort of trying to run like their own parallel government. Call them in and tell them, look, this is the way and the only way.
Absolutely. When you join any political party in Kenya, or indeed any grouping, the rules of entry are very clear. These are we do things in this homestead. And you sign into the rules and you say, I shall be loyal. Now, when you join any political party, especially just before the election, they normally sign some contracts that they're going to be loyal to the political party and they're going to be loyal to the political party leadership. And they agree that as a political party, they'll caucus, they take a position in a closed doors, but when they go public, they're just going to dance to one tune, one drum beat. So it's unacceptable for any political party member that having agreed on a certain position in a closed door meeting, be it a State House at KCC, then you come out, you start expressing divergent views. If you're unhappy with what you've agreed upon at a State House and you think the president is a dictator or a bully, then just maintain your peace, keep quiet, get some ice cubes in your mouth, you keep quiet, or you just resign from the
or leave the party.
Yeah, just leave the party. But it's unacceptable for you to be a member, say, of ODM or ANC or Jubilee, and you spend 90% of your time saying the president is a dictator, or Musalia Mudavadi is a dictator, or Raila is a dictator. Then why are you a member of that political party? And it's important to note the majority of these people gain political office not because of their own popularity, but because of the party leader and the party in general.
Actually, they've been going around, Dismus, saying it's the other way around.
It cannot be.
We have heard very many MPs saying, we campaigned for this person. We campaigned. We spent sleepless nights. We walked in the mud and in the rain. We campaigned. We tried to convince people that the only way, the best way to have Kenya running is by you electing Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto into the top office. And even when the Supreme Court told us to go back, we went back and still campaigned again. Even after securing our own offices, we went back and campaigned again for these two gentlemen. And now he's standing back on us and behaving as if we did not contribute to that.
Let's take the example of President Kenyatta and Central Kenya. It's true that they campaigned for the elective positions, but who gave them the logistics? Who gave them resources to run around? I mean, majority of these people get elected not on the strength of their own popularity or their grassroots mobilization, but for a political party. That's why you never get somebody from, say, ODM running in Gatundu, because the moment you show the ODM running in Gatundu, you'll get 2 votes. Yeah, so people should just call a spade and agree that if you think a political party is going to be a bit of a challenge for you, then go run as an independent. When you run as an independent, you can go to any house, and then you call a spade. You speak your mind. But if you're going to be a member of any political party, any organization, you must be ready to go with the rules. It's just fair. It's like when you visit somebody's homestead, and the president said this other day, if you're expected to remove your shoes,
you remove your shoes.
Yeah, but if you think it's going to be a bit of a challenge for you, don't even bother. Can you imagine you put up a top-of-the-range building, and then your guests come in and they're smoking in the living room, they convert the kitchen into a bathroom. I mean, as a host, can you accept these kind of things? You'll kick people out. But now we need to ask ourselves, whatever President Kenyatta is doing today for ODM, and whatever Raila Odinga, President Kenyatta is doing at Jubilee, and Raila Odinga for ODM, I think the question we need to keep on asking ourselves every single day, whose interests are they actually serving? Are they serving Amina's interest so that they work on our socio-economic prosperity? Because we've been told times above number, this is for prosperity, shared prosperity for all Kenyans. Are we seeing this in our bank balances, in our socio-economic life? Or these leaders are instilling party discipline in the various political parties to serve their selfish interests? And I think the biggest question we need to ask ourselves every single day the sun comes from the east, are the leaders' selfish interests consistent with our national and public interest?
I don't mind to tell you that they could be intertwined. You see, for me to be able to push an agenda that will serve you, I have got to ensure that I am able to push that agenda. So the first thing that I do is to secure my position so that, secure my position in the team so that I can help the team win.
Absolutely. Like, for instance, I know what the president said the other day, that we are going to have a referendum.
Yep.
He doesn't want Kenya to have violence every election.
Yep.
That is absolutely something which is welcome. But in pushing that agenda, is it consistent with Kenyans' interest? Yes. But is the outcome going to favor every single Kenya, or in the process, the byproducts are going to favor a few Kenyans, and then the rest of the Kenyans are going to remain wallowed in misery? And I think those are the biggest questions we need to ask ourselves, because, politicians are very, very crafty human beings. It's not easy, even if you run for elections in high school as a prefect or a monitor, it's not very easy to get 10 people to line up and vote for you.
This is true.
But when you get somebody like President Kenyatta with up to 7 million people waking up early in the morning during the rains, people leaving their hospitals to come and vote, those are very, very powerful people. So we should be reading whatever they're telling us with a lot of interest and keep on asking ourselves, in the process of changing the constitution, doing a few amendments, who is actually the primary beneficiary? Out of the maybe 10 sets of amendments, are these 10 amendments benefiting Amura, or 9 amendments are going to benefit President Kenyatta and his brother Raila Odinga, and the other Kenyans benefit from only one amendment? Those are the questions I think we need to ask ourselves.
Dismus, out of what happened yesterday, do you think then that we're going to see individuals towing the line? I mean, because it was clear that the stance of the government was, or rather the stance of the president was that basically, I'm not going to take this nonsense anymore. And we've been of the opinion that we will see a change. However, it will not be because they want to change. It will be because they don't want to be on the periphery of government and leadership, as it were. Do you see that we will see a different kind of towing of the line?
Well, the president now has inflicted pain and pleasure in very good amounts at his pleasure. And believe you me, all these MPs, members of the National Assembly and Senate, will be dancing to the president's drumbeat as he deems fit. You remember the prior meeting for Jubilee parliamentary group for the senators? It was about 50% turnout.
Yep.
The one for yesterday was 96% turnout. And the National Assembly has got many more members than the Senate.
Yep.
It seems the case that for yesterday's meeting, nobody missed a text message. Everybody had their
everybody received theirs. Yeah.
Everybody. And
even those on postpaid.
Even those ones on postpaid. And nobody, for the first time, nobody was asking yesterday, give us evidence of this meeting, give us pictures, give us signatures. So I think after the meeting yesterday, everybody is going to be, straight and narrow. But again, the question we need to ask ourselves, during that meeting, what happened? Did the members actually have the opportunity to air their views, or
no,
it
they
was
didn't.
A monologue?
That we know, that they didn't have an opportunity to air their views.
Now that they didn't have the opportunity to air their views and they received, mother tongue, we say, Amsomo. Is this Amsomo consistent with our expectations? When the president says, I want you to go to the National Assembly and dance to my tune, is that tune consistent with our expectation? Or the president is just driving his selfish agenda? And I think that's what we need to ask ourselves. But making progress, in future as a nation, we should be forming political parties anchored on ideologies, so that it's not the personality driving the agenda. Because now President Kenyatta is driving the agenda based on his ideas.
It seems that in order for that to happen, Dismus, you're going to have to clear the whole lot of them out. I mean, if we want to, if we talk about political parties then practicing based on ideology, it doesn't happen here. And in order for that to happen, all the individuals, the personalities upon which politics is played, seems to me that you're going to have to clear the whole lot of them out in order to start then political practice based on ideology.
Yeah, probably 100%. Because when you look at other mature economies, like if it's maybe the conservatives or the liberals, if they're discussing an idea, maybe they would be asking themselves, how much government do you want in people's lives? And then that's what they're discussing. And their loyalty is to a philosophy or an ideology. But here, our loyalty is to a personality, to an individual. So that even if, when they were receiving them somewhere yesterday, in the event that the president is wrong, nobody would have the guts to say, Your Excellency, I've got a divergent view. The moment you say that, Tuju and company are watching you, the following day you are going to be summoned for a grilling meeting, and you'll be required to show cause as to why you can't be whipped, expelled, or even kicked out of the party unceremoniously. So that's what we need to guard. Politicians are very good people. They're powerful human beings. And we are told from economics, it's not always the case that their selfish interests are consistent with public and national interests. So what happens if a politician is so strong, like now President Kenyatta has demonstrated with his political party, that nobody has got capacity to tell him, Mr. President, you are wrong. Everybody's going to be, now they're like ducks.
Capacity or guts?
One needs row.
Capacity or guts?
I think both. Because you see, if you're attending the parliamentary meeting yesterday for members of the National Assembly, and you know what has happened to Kipchumba Murkomen, Susan Kiika, and Kithure Kindike, you'll be very, very careful on what you're going to say. And I suspect majority of the people who attended yesterday was purposes of signing the attendance sheet.
Yep.
That I was here. Please don't pick me out.
Don't pick me out.
But the decisions had already been taken. But so now let's ask ourselves.
As we keep asking ourselves these questions, whose interest is a politician serving? Let's also remember that every politician is first and foremost serving their interests. Even the leaders of the political parties in those developed economies, in developed democracies, each individual leader is serving their interests first and foremost, and then the political party's interest is secondary. Maybe what we should also be asking ourselves is, do we need to consider the whole political... We have not had political parties that are strong enough. It's actually always personality politics. And Siti Muga keeps reminding us that, the ideology of the person is the party's ideology. Let's stop mixing ourselves up with, what's the ideology? Like the parties don't have ideology. Maybe we should just focus on that. Like we talk about, okay, so if we have a strong leader called Uhuru Kenyatta, and then he's been able to rally these people around him, and because of his influence, people have been able to be elected into parliament. But when they get there, they also have their own principles. I know that this is what I stand for. I stand for right. I stand for to ensure that Wanjiku gets the benefits of electing me into office as a member of parliament. If the president is going... taking a different direction, you should be able to have the guts on principle to stand up and say, you know what, I listen to you, Mr. President, but also at the same time, I think you're going wrong. You don't have to go to a church service to say that. You can find other avenues, like in Parliament, and standing up and saying, on principle, this is why I'm not comfortable with this direction or with this bill or with this policy that has been brought here.
The only person who has ever done that with success is Raila Odinga. When he was leaving Ford Kenya, he said he was unhappy with the ideologies, or maybe the personality leading the party then. Then he formed his own political party and he went to win a seat. Then maybe I guess what you need to do when you're going for the election, just look at somebody among all the elected leaders whose personal ideologies approximates our national and public interest.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to run with somebody, and again, we call a spade a spade. Majority of the party leaders are essentially tribal chiefs.
Yeah.
People been able to mobilize their tribal numbers, and then they go to their National Assembly or Senate. They beat up everybody into one straight queue, and then they become very powerful people. We should actually be blaming ourselves.
I see it a bit difficult then to call out an individual, regardless of who it is, whether it's a president or your colleague or whomever, to call out someone then on principle when you have been operating on non-principle all along. I see that's where the difficulty would be. To be able to then call somebody out and say, I don't think you're going in the right direction, where your practice, you as an individual, and if you want to look at members of parliament or other leaders, where you as a matter as a matter of principle, or rather as a matter of operation, you have not operated on principle. So I see that as the reason why a lot of this calling out would not happen, because the practice has not been based on principle. So it's difficult then to call someone out on the same principle.
Well, I think we should give our politicians the benefits of doubt. And you remember in the Bible we are told that Damascus moment when Saul becomes Paul. And we are also told that it's only wise people keep on changing their positions or minds on issues. For me, I don't see anything wrong. Because again, when these guys are in the campaign process, it's all promises. Yeah. Everything is painted in a very rosy manner. Yeah. But after 1 year, if you realize that these politicians' personal ideology is going on the extreme, I see nothing wrong in calling them out. But again, in calling them out, you do it with decorum.
Yeah.
Because we've seen a number of Tanga people hurling all manner of insults. We are told that there's a bar at State House. People are being accused of not taking coffee. Instead, they're taking alcoholic beverages.
Yeah.
You cannot expect the head of a political party to pay attention to what you are saying
if
you're insulting him.
Way, right?
Yep. Yeah. But if you go to the National Assembly or Senate or these parliamentary group meetings and you've got a reasoned position, it can be listened to. You can even caucus within the National Assembly and Senate. Stop caucusing at churches and funerals.
True.
Caucus within the National Assembly. Come up with a piece of legislation, an amazing piece of legislation, a eureka piece of legislation. Present to the president. If he refuses to sign it into law, then you say you've tried your level best.
True.
And if you come up with a good piece of legislation, even if the president refuses to sign it, I think there's a default setting that it becomes law within a certain number of days.
Yeah.
But here, majority of these guys we've elected to the National Assembly and Senate, they're super active outside
Elsewhere.
the houses. Yeah, they're super active.
Thank you very much for speaking to us today.